How did this dude go from killing people with superpowers to getting superpowers for himself and using them to kill all other superheroes? Jeez, that's right, folks. I'm talking about the blood-soaked, traumatizing show that we know as The Boys. This Prime Video series is one heck of a satirical superhero parody that makes fun of, well, everything. And with the final season of The Boys on the horizon, we thought, why not discuss what we've seen so far? Well, here we are, and let's get freaking started. The first episode of The Boys kicks off with a hijacked van speeding towards two kids. Fortunately, Queen Maeve, one of the supposed superheroes, steps in front of the van to stop it, and at the same time, Homelander flies in to help her take down the hijackers. Real quick, Maeve and Homelander are part of the biggest superhero group called The Seven, and Homelander is their hero. But here's the thing, not every superhero is actually a hero. Yeah, you'll see soon. Elsewhere, we see a normal guy named Huey talking to his manager at a tech shop, Gary. Huey seems like a nice guy, but Gary is the kind of boss who would probably deny you your leave for your own wedding. Anyway, a while later, Huey meets up with his girlfriend Robin, and they both start walking on the sidewalk. Actually, Huey is on the sidewalk while Robin is in the street, and trust me, there's a major difference. They're both being all cute and lovey-dovey when all of a sudden a speedster and another member of the Seven, known as A-Train, rips through Robin and tears her to shreds. Holy crap, that's the trauma of a lifetime. Huey just stands in shock, holding her hands while A-Train barely apologizes and sprints off as if nothing happened. We then see Annie, aka Starlight, a naive girl with superpowers, auditioning for the Seven at Vought. Vought, by the way, is a massive superhero conglomerate that owns the Seven. Annie's biggest dream is to become a superhero to help people. Big mistake, girl. At the same time, A-Train goes on TV and lies, claiming Robin was standing in the middle of the road. Yeah, no, she wasn't. To make things worse, Vought offers Huey $45,000 to sign a non-disclosure agreement. Basically, Vought says, hey, here's some money, now pretend your girlfriend didn't just get erased. Huey wants to fight back and file a lawsuit, but his father, Hugh Sr., shuts that idea down quick. During all this, Annie learns that she has been accepted into the Seven. She and her mother Donna are just over the moon. Soon after, Starlight is introduced as the new official member of the Seven during a press conference. The Deep, a member of the Seven who can breathe underwater and talk to sea creatures, gives her a tour of the Seven headquarters. Annie is really happy, but all that smile is taken away when the Deep tries to force her into oral. Oh my hell, that's not what heroes should be doing at all! Elsewhere, we see Huey being approached by Billy Butcher, who introduces himself as an FBI agent. Billy is our main guy, and while he is not a good person, he absolutely hates superheroes, or soups, and can throw out some funny insults with his Cockney accent. Billy tells Huey that he knows A-Train actually killed Robin and convinces the boy that all soups are scumbags. Billy asks Huey to sign the NDA on the condition that A-Train apologizes to him privately. While that goes on, Huey needs to plant a bug on A-Train. Well, that's definitely a risky move, so Huey gets scared down to his bones and leaves. At Vought, we meet Madeline, a top Vought executive trying to sell a soup to Baltimore's mayor. During the negotiation, the mayor mentions something called Compound V and threatens to reveal everything about it to the public. What the hell is this Compound V now? Of course, Madeline denies the existence of Compound V and tells the mayor to buzz off back to Baltimore. Meanwhile, we see Starlight sitting on a bench crying over everything that's just happened. Coincidentally, Huey arrives and tries to console Annie, not knowing who exactly he's talking to right now. Oh, Huey's actually a sweet guy. Moving on, after thinking on it for a while, Huey meets Billy and agrees to plant a bug at the Seven HQ. Gosh, that's risky. The next day, we meet the rest of the members of the Seven. The invisible dude is translucent, and the guy with the face mask is Black Noir, the mute member of the team. Huey arrives at Seven Tower where he meets A-Train to get that apology. After getting a fake-ass apology, Huey Billy slips into the restroom to prepare the bug, but unfortunately, Translucent sees the entire thing, and later, Huey plants that same bug in the Seven's conference room. Oh gosh, this seems like a win for old Huey, and Billy drops him back at his workplace. However, Translucent confronts Huey for the bug and beats the crap out of him. Then, out of nowhere, Billy crashes the car into the store and runs over the invisible scumbag. Huey also seizes the opportunity and electrocutes Translucent, causing him to faint. Dude, you're in some real mess now. Finally, we see Homelander destroying the plane carrying Baltimore's mayor and his son. Definitely not a good hero. So the secret of Compound V dies with them. Or does it? The second episode kicks off with Billy and Huey carrying Translucent to the car's trunk. As expected, Translucent is still alive, and Huey is close to pissing his pants. On top of that, Billy reveals that he's not with the FBI and is an independent contractor. Yeah, saw that coming from miles away. Obviously, Huey wants to let Translucent go, but it's already too late to unmess everything up. Billy then takes Huey to meet Frenchie, who is a chemical expert and a friend of Billy's. Frenchie because he's French? Man, that's awful. Billy then asks Frenchie to help them deal with the entire Translucent situation. At Vought Tower, Madeline asks Ashley, her secretary, about Translucent's location, but Ashley says that she hasn't seen Translucent. Yeah, he truly went invisible. At the same time, Billy, Huey, and Frenchie put Translucent into an electrified cage. It turns out Translucent's skin is impenetrable, so the boys must think of a way to actually kill an invincible man. After a while, Billy meets Susan, the CIA deputy director, and asks her for the files on Soups, including Translucent. However, Susan refuses to help Billy in any way. Back to the hideout, Huey asks Translucent why A-Train was in a rush when he killed Robin. What in the hell was A-Train carrying, and where was he going? But of course, Translucent refuses to give away any of that information. Meanwhile, we learn that Madeline wants to put Vought heroes into a national defense. She wants a US senator to push this idea forward, but when he declines, she tricks the senator into sleeping with a shapeshifter and records the entire thing. Jeez, everyone's just awful in this show. Talking about someone who's not awful, Annie saves a girl, but does that superhero stuff in her normal clothes, so there goes her secret identity. Back at Frenchie's place, the boys finally figure out how to kill Translucent. Sure, his skin is really hard, but his insides are normal. So the boys plant a bomb inside Translucent's ass. Naturally, Translucent starts begging for his life and tells them about A-Train's girlfriend, Popclaw. Translucent reveals that only Popclaw must know where A-Train was heading that day he killed Robin. Unfortunately, in the next moment, Homelander arrives near Frenchie's location to look for Translucent. So Billy and Frenchie rush out to create a distraction, which surprisingly works. In the middle of all this chaos, Translucent finds a way out of the cage and starts leaving. But guess what? Huey pulls the trigger and blasts the absolute bejesus out of him. The third episode kicks off with Madeline telling Starlight that someone recorded her saving that girl. Of course, Vought is pissed at Annie for giving away her secret identity, but she's getting incredibly popular on social media. But the sickos at Vought want to make Starlight more popular by giving her a more revealing outfit. Next, Billy visits his friend Marvin, aka Mother's Milk, a former US Marine who's pissed at Billy for giving him such an ugly nickname. Billy wants MM to join his team, and while MM initially refuses, the big man eventually agrees after learning that Billy has killed Translucent. Elsewhere, Madeline wants Homelander to talk to the military higher-ups so they can include the Soups in national defense. Homelander doesn't care about any of this, but then Madeline mentions the name of Mr. Edgar, which scares the hell out of Homelander. Interesting. Later we see Homelander going on a mission with Maeve, and he seems really concerned about Translucent. And he's pissed that nobody at Vought is trying to find the lost member of the Seven. Yeah, you can find him in pieces. Meanwhile, MM, Billy, Frenchie, and Huey bug Popclaw's place with a camera. Later, A-Tray visits Popclaw to take some Compound V, a power-enhancing drug he wants to use in his race with Shockwave, another speedster. The boys see the whole thing, and now they plan to steal this Compound V. The boys now arrive at a stadium where A-Train is supposed to race Shockwave. There, Huey meets Annie, and the group learns that Huey is actually friends with a member of the Seven. Now, while A-Train wins his race, we also learn that Homelander used to date Maeve, but they broke up. I wonder why. Anywho, the boys give their best, but they fail to steal Compound V from A-Train's trailer. But at the same time, MM watches Popclaw taking some Compound V vials for herself, so the group decides to follow her. Inside Popclaw's apartment, the girl finally injects herself with the compound, which makes her incredibly strong. Right then, Popclaw decides to test some of her strength by sleeping with her landlord, and mistakenly crushing his skull. Hot damn! Billy and Frenchie go into her room to tell Popclaw that they will help her sort this out, but in return, she needs to tell them everything everything about Compound V. Finally, at the Vought Tower, Madeline meets Homelander and the Deep. The two scumbags show Madeline a suitcase containing translucent remains with a warning that reads, "Coming for you." The fourth episode opens with Billy dreaming about his late wife, Becca, who actually seems like a great woman. I wonder what happened to Becca. After walking away from the beautiful dream, Billy meets Susan so he can stop Soups from joining the military. He also shows Susan a picture of A-Train and Popclaw injecting Compound V. However, Susan asks Billy to bring her an actual sample of the Compound V, if he truly wants to make this work. Billy now calls Popclaw, who tells him that A-Train gets the compound from some noodle shop. Naturally, Huey, and Frenchie keep their eye on the noodle shop, where they see a man dropping a package on the floor. The boys follow the man into the back of the supermarket, where they discover a warehouse filled with strange boxes. Not only that, but deep inside the warehouse, the boys find a girl watching TV. The girl is clearly being held hostage. So, Frenchie, being the softie that he is, sets the girl free, and guess what? The girl is actually insane as she instantly kills two men. Oh my God! Wait, give me a second. Let me just go vomit real quick. Billy now arrives in the warehouse where the boys look for Compound V. then finds a small syringe filled with Compound V. The boys realize that A-Train delivers the Compound V to the warehouse, and the men who just died injected the compound into the girl Frenchie just released. Meanwhile, Billy tells Huey to continue his relationship with Annie and hack her phone, because that's both the way into her heart and inside Vought. Elsewhere, Madeline learns that plane Flight 37 has been hijacked, so she tells Homelander to bring the passengers back alive. If Homelander does that, the Soups might actually get the approval to join the military. At the same time, Frenchie meets his close friend Sherry, who gives him a chemical that can knock out a Soup. Now, what do you need this for? A-Train now arrives at the warehouse and is shocked to see all of his men dead. The scumbag speedster confronts Popclaw since she was the only one he told about Compound V. Naturally, Popclaw insists that she hadn't told anyone. Of course, A-Train believes her and tells Popclaw to pack a bag, because they must leave before Homelander finds out. Yeah, that would be pretty scary. Moving on, Homelander and Maeve enter the hijacked airplane and kill the hijackers, but in the process, Homelander destroys the flight's controls. To make things worse, the pilots are also dead, so Homelander decides to abandon the passengers and pretend the whole thing never happened. Dude, be a freaking superhero for once. Of course, Maeve doesn't like this one bit, but she can't do anything without Homelander's help, so she leaves the plane mid-air with Homelander, and as expected, the plane crashes into the ocean. During all this, the boys continue to search for the Soup girl from the warehouse, who goes by the name Kimiko. They want to find Kimiko soon because A-Train is also looking for her. Anyway, after a bit of searching, Frenchie finds Kimiko and tries to calm her down, but she runs away again. Meanwhile, Huey is on a date with Annie and does what Billy asked. He plants a bug in her phone. Damn it, Huey. Back to the other boys. Frenchie, and Billy find Kimiko, but unfortunately, A-Train arrives there as well. Of course, A-Train doesn't know Billy or any of his friends, so he simply tries to take Kimiko away. Surprisingly though, Frenchie alerts the nearby crowd about A-Train, and everyone gathers around the speedster because they're all his fans. This allows Kimiko to escape, and the boys finally manage to capture the poor girl. Finally, Homelander and Queen Maeve talk to the press about the flight crash. Expectedly, Homelander lies that they arrived 3 minutes after the plane crash. Why? Because they were called in late. Homelander also says that if the Soups were in the military, nothing like this would have happened in the first place. That cheeky bastard. The fifth episode opens with A-Train showing up in Havana, where he hid Popclaw. Popclaw thinks that A-Train wants a future with her, but not. The jerky soup only wants to know why Popclaw messed up. A-Train tricks Popclaw into revealing that she told the boys about Compound V. Stupid. A-Train gets pissed off and he injects Popclaw with multiple shots of heroin to kill her. Then A-Train goes straight to Homelander and informs him about his girlfriend's death. Meanwhile, Butcher and decide to learn about Compound V at the Grand Believe Expo, where these Soups show themselves as divine figures chosen by God.
Because we were born with his power, because we believe!
What a bloody joke. Butcher and ask Huey to use Starlight's help to get access to Ezekiel, the leader of the expo, and a Soup with elastic powers. Apparently, Butcher has a scandalous video of the super religious Ezekiel with two men, so it's easy for Huey to blackmail the guy. Huey tells Starlight that his father is a huge fan of Ezekiel, but he can't afford the tickets. Starlight helps him, and Huey arrives at Ezekiel's place. However, before Huey can reach out to Ezekiel, he sees Homelander. Yikes. Shockingly, Homelander is the chief guest called to rebaptize the loyal followers. So, oh well. Huey has no choice but to get rebaptized as well. Also, Homelander knows that Huey is dating Starlight, and the jerkwad Soup isn't very happy about it. Anyway, during the rebaptization process, Huey accidentally destroys the phone with Ezekiel's tape. However, the smarty pants improvises and tells Ezekiel that it was Huey himself who was in the video, since Huey mentions exactly what he saw in the video. Ezekiel believes him and agrees to reveal information about the Compound V. On the other side of things, Butcher arrives at his sister-in-law Rachel's place. Apparently, Rachel has bought a headstone for Becca's grave, even though her body was never found. Of course, Butcher is pissed about this, but Rachel tells him that her mother needs a place to grieve. Yeah, let the poor woman be, Butcher. Rachel asks Butcher to move on, as 8 years have passed since Becca disappeared, so it's obvious that she is dead. Elsewhere, Starlight visits the Believe Expo, where she's supposed to give a scripted speech. However, Annie throws a filthy script away and instead reveals that someone in the 7 SA'd her. Damn! Meanwhile, following Ezekiel's lead, Butcher and MM visit a lab and discover that these soups aren't chosen by God. In fact, they are manufactured in these labs through Compound V. Holy f***, you gotta be kidding me! Later, A-Train manages to get the tape from Popclaw's apartment, where he sees Frenchie entering the apartment. A-Train now loops Black Noir into the investigation, and Black Noir eventually tracks down Frenchie. Instantly, Black Noir attacks the French dude, but fortunately, Kimiko arrives right on time to save the guy. She fights Black Noir and gets gravely injured, but when Frenchie returns and thinks she's dead, Kimiko's wounds start to heal. Yeah, her story isn't over yet, boys. The 6th episode kicks off with Vought, presenting a promotional video in which the 7 are portrayed as holy figures. Bullcrap. Courtney, who manages marketing for the 7, doesn't like the video at all, so she pushes for a more robust military image. Elsewhere, MM reveals that the company called Samaritan's Embrace has been creating soups by injecting newborn babies with Compound V since 1971. Billy realizes they can now bring in Susan to show her all the evidence. Back at the 7 Tower, Madeline fires Ashley when Starlight approaches her in the office. Madeline asks Starlight to stop talking about what the Deep did to her. When Starlight refuses, Madeline threatens to remove her from the 7. Moving on, Frenchie tells MM that they should ask Mesmer, the telepathic soup, to read Kimiko's mind to get some more information. Mesmer also hates Vought and soups, so MM agrees to meet the guy. At Vought Tower, Madeline forces the Deep to step back from the 7 and issue a public apology, where this scumbag says that everything between him and Starlight was consensual. Meanwhile, Butcher reveals to Huey that Homelander forced himself on Billy's wife years ago and that she later disappeared. Jeez, that's really awful. While this is going on, Mesmer tries to read Kimiko's mind, but she accidentally breaks Mesmer's wrist. Elsewhere, Queen Maeve meets with her girlfriend, Elena, who is not happy that Maeve has been ignoring her. Later, Butcher arrives at Mesmer's house, where Mesmer successfully reads Kimiko Miyajiro's memories. Mesmer reveals that Kimiko and her brother were kidnapped as children and forced to become soldiers, and now Kimiko wants to save her brother. At the same time, Butcher explains that Vought is creating supervillains with Compound V to justify putting superheroes into the military. That's what we call sickness. Butcher then shows Susan proof of Compound V, but Susan still refuses to help Butcher against Homelander. Frenchie offers Kimiko a chance to leave, but she chooses to stay with him. Unfortunately, though, Mesmer betrays the boys by telling Homelander their location in exchange for a favor. This episode opens 8 years earlier, where Billy and Becca attend a Vought Christmas event. At the party, Homelander thanks Becca for managing his social media, and from the very beginning, Butcher starts to hate Homelander's poker face. In the present, Butcher watches Huey and Starlight meet at a hotel, where Huey reveals everything to her about Robin's death. We then cut to A-Train, who's training while his brother Nathan warns him that abusing Compound V is damaging his body. But A-Train ignores all of this and responds to Homelander's call to Vought Tower, where Homelander reveals Huey's identity as Translucent's killer, and asks Maeve to watch Starlight. Oh goodness. Later, A-Train calls Huey and threatens his father. Huey arrives home, where A-Train confirms that Mesmer has betrayed the boys. In the very next moment, Kimiko makes a heroic entry and breaks A-Train's leg with a crowbar, allowing her and Huey to escape. MM now meets his ex-wife Monique, who argues with him about working with Butcher. Meanwhile, Madeline tells Homelander they need only 3 more votes to get the 7 into the military. Homelander then brings up Becca's disappearance, and Madeline says Becca likely quit her job. Elsewhere, Butcher tracks down Mesmer at a subway station and kills the coward for betraying the boys. Yep, that's what you get for backstabbing. We now see a flashback in which Grace, a former deputy director of the CIA, shows Butcher CCTV footage of Becca entering Homelander's office and leaving hours later, clearly shaken. Then Grace recruits Butcher by promising him a chance at revenge. Back at the present, Homelander confronts Jonah, a retired Vought scientist who reveals that Becca was pregnant and with his child, and both she and the baby died. I didn't think it could get worse for this poor guy. Later, Susan and the CIA agents locate the boys and offer protection in exchange for Compound V. After that, Susan confronts Madeline about hiding the truth, but right then, footage emerges of a super-powered terrorist attack, diverting attention from the real issue. All right. Finally, Huey meets Starlight, who asks whether he killed Translucent. Huey is a softie, so he doesn't lie, and Starlight tries to turn him over to the police. Huey says that if she turns him in, he will be dead before sunrise. Huey then reveals that Compound V is used to create superheroes, but before Starlight can react, Billy fires a sniper rifle and shoots her twice in the chest, telling Huey to run. Of course, Starlight doesn't die because she's also a freaking soup, but yeah, she's pissed. The final episode of Season 1 opens with US troops approaching a warehouse in Syria to handle some alleged terrorists. Instantly, Homelander also arrives and single-handedly bodies all the baddies. Once all that's done, Homelander retrieves Compound V from the terrorist camp. During a meeting, Robert Singer, the US Secretary of Defense, asks Madeline how in the hell terrorists got their hands on V. But of course, cheeky Madeline denies any involvement. She just wants superheroes in the military. Elsewhere, Butcher learns from Susan that the CIA will cover up the Compound V fiasco, and now the boys are fugitives. Yep, the CIA can never be your friend. We then cut to Starlight, who learns from her insensitive mother that she was injected with Compound V as a child. During all this, the Deep is only worried about getting sidelined by Vought. Later, Butcher introduces Huey to Grace, who reveals that Madeline is Homelander's weakness. Meanwhile, the rest of Butcher's team is captured by a Vought Black Ops squad. However, Butcher abandons his boys to continue his mission, which doesn't land well with Huey. Huey then asks Starlight for help and tells her that Vought is giving Compound V to terrorists so that they can get the soups into the military. However, Starlight refuses to help and walks away. But later, Maeve talks to Starlight about heroism to make the new girl realize that she can still be a hero, despite the fact that everyone else in the Seven is a total scumbag. Maeve might not be so bad either. Cut to Homelander, and the guy admits to Madeline that he created super terrorists to force the military approval. If there's a mess, there's Homelander behind it. Later that day, Huey gets captured by Vought and helps Frenchie and MM escape like a Chad, with Starlight's help, of course. A-Train tries to stop Huey and Starlight, but the Compound V use catches up with him and he collapses after a heart attack. However, instead of leaving the speedster scumbag on the ground, Starlight calls for help like a real frickin' hero. Finally, we see Butcher confronting Madeline about everything as he ties up the poor lady. Butcher wants to lure Homelander, thinking Madeline is the soup's weakness. Homelander swoops right in, but not to save Madeline. Instead, Homelander is pissed at Madeline for always lying to him, including the fact that Becca is alive. Hold on, what? Butcher wants to hurt Homelander by killing Madeline in front of him, but guess what? Homelander kills the lady himself by frying her gosh darn brains. Jeez, where's Superman when you need him? With Madeline dead, Butcher has nothing else to do, so he detonates the explosives. Shockingly, though, Homelander saves him and takes the guy to Becca, who is there with her superpowered son, Ryan. Oh yeah, since Ryan is a soup, this means that he is Homelander's son. Yep. Might take you a while to take it all in. The first episode of Season 2 begins with the Vought CEO, Stan Edgar, meeting with a U.S. military official. Stan says that the soups will report to him even after entering the military, and he's ready to accept potential collateral damage. By collateral damage, he means people. Around the same time, Black Noir kills the super terrorist, Naqib, while Homelander is at Translucent's funeral. Homelander lies that a terrorist killed Translucent, and he will avenge his soup friend who died all naked. The Deep watches the funeral and realizes that he's in a deep mess because Vought erased him from a photo. Meanwhile, A-Train lies hospitalized in critical condition. Elsewhere, Huey secretly meets with Starlight and asks her to track down a soup known as the Gecko. Starlight recognizes Gecko from her childhood and agrees to find the guy. The Deep is so messed up mentally that he is causing trouble at a water park and gets arrested. However, another very nice and polite soup, Eagle the Archer, bails him out of jail. The boys, who are now wanted criminals, debate their next move while Butcher remains missing. Homelander visits Madeline's office and drinks her stored breast milk. Okay, this guy needs some boundaries. After that, Ashley takes Homelander to meet Blindspot, a blind soup candidate for the Seven. Blindspot uses his hearing to fight enemies, so Homelander simply damages his ears. Why? Simple. Homelander isn't up for disabled members of the Seven. You would be lucky to have Daredevil on your crappy team. Meanwhile, Starlight tracks Gecko and sees that the dude can regenerate his body parts. The boys, on the other hand, run into an operation tied to human trafficking. The team also sees a trafficked soup terrorist who attacks them before escaping. Later, we see Archer introducing the Deep to Carol, a member of the religious cult known as Church of the Collective. And of course, Carol wants the Deep to join her religious band. Around the same time, MM gets pissed after learning that Huey is still in contact with Starlight. Oh, talking about Starlight, Annie talks to Gecko and manipulates him into stealing Compound V. At Vought, Homelander and Maeve film a commercial, and suddenly, Stan brings in another soup named Stormfront. Out of bloody nowhere, Stan tells Homelander that Stormfront is the new Seven member. Stormfront is rude enough to run for president, so of course Homelander doesn't like her even a bit. We then cut to the boys meeting Susan, who begins to believe that Vought is behind the super terrorists. The boys are happy because Susan is ready to take some bloody action. But in the next moment, Susan's head explodes like a balloon.
Fuck!
Ah, jeez. Yeah, I'll never get used to that. Obviously, the boys are scared and they run so bloody fast it's like they're racing A-Train. Then Homelander confronts Stan, who tells the big caped baby that he is nothing but a disposable asset for Vought. Compound V is Vought's main asset, and Homelander is distributing the drug like a cheap-ass candy, so Stan is pissed. After being scolded like a kid in junior high, Homelander visits Becca and Ryan. Meanwhile, Starlight informs Huey that Gecko will get them Compound V, so they can expose Vought, but Butcher suddenly returns to the team. And much to everyone's delight, Butcher wants to do things his own way, which of course involves a lot of violence. The second episode kicks off with Butcher thinking about how and where he can find Becca. Homelander, on the other hand, spends his time with Ryan. He wants his son to push his powers, but Becca doesn't like that at all. During all this, the Deep struggles during therapy and takes hallucinogenic mushrooms given to him by Eagle. At Vought, Ashley organizes a press event where Starlight and Maeve have to introduce Stormfront, but Maeve leaves after getting a call. Okay. Just casually leave then? At Susan's funeral, Grace meets Butcher, who wants to capture the soup terrorists to learn about Susan's killer. Meanwhile, the Deep starts to hallucinate, and the dude keeps talking to his gills. Also, it turns out that Maeve left the press conference to meet Elena, who is in the hospital. During interviews, Stormfront acts like a damn queen, like she's all about gender equality. And while Stormfront talks about feminism, A-Train swoops in to take all the spotlight. Starlight is scared because A-Train can reveal everything about Huey to Homelander. However, Starlight threatens to change the narrative if A-Train actually tries to say something about Huey. Butcher now returns to the base and tells the boys that if they capture the soup terrorist, Grace will clear their names. That's good, and what's even better is that Starlight secures a sample of Compound V from Gecko. Elsewhere, Becca confronts Vought after learning that they allowed Homelander to meet Ryan. But hey, nobody wants to piss off Homelander. Back at the hospital, Maeve reveals to Elena that Homelander kills their lovers out of jealousy, and that's why she's keeping her distance. Speaking of Homelander, the dude bonds with Ryan and warns Becca that he will reveal the truth to the kid if she interferes. Later that day, the boys finally locate the soup terrorist, where Kimiko realizes that these are the same guys who kidnapped her. In the next moment, Kimiko reunites with her brother Kenji, who is actually the terrorist the boys are looking for. That's emotional, man. Obviously, Butcher attempts to kill Kenji, but Huey stops him and allows Kimiko and Kenji to escape. At Vought Tower, Starlight finally becomes a badass queen and tells A-Train that if he talks about Huey, she will tell Homelander about Popclaw. Yeah, keep your mouth shut, A-Train. At the same time, Butcher reveals to the boys that Becca is alive and raising Homelander's son. Butcher confirms that Becca is the reason why he's dealing with Grace. Yeah, dude wants his wife back at all costs. Then we see Kimiko talking to Kenji, who unfortunately refuses to abandon this cause. So Kimiko is left with no choice but to subdue him. In the next moment, the boys capture both siblings, and Butcher tells Huey to back off and never interfere again. The third episode takes us to a boat, where Butcher apologizes to Huey for being a jerk. Butcher gets forgiveness with a punch to the face. Butcher then calls Grace and tells her that he has the target, so hurry up. Meanwhile, Kimiko talks to Kenji like a big sister and asks him to stop being so damn stubborn, but she still refuses to free Kenji. We now cut to A-Train, who's in bad shape and continues to suffer chest pain. Also, Homelander is spending a lot of time with Ryan and is still pushing him to use his powers. At Vought, Ashley alerts Stan about the spreading Compound V news. Starlight is enjoying all this chaos, and A-Train asks Annie if she is behind all this. In fact, A-Train is so sure that Annie is the culprit, but she says that if she goes down, she'll drag A-Train down by his freaking hair. During all this, the Deep tells Eagle, the archer, that he can hear the sea creatures suffering. Important stuff. Back to the boys, Huey and the team celebrate that the news of the Compound V is out, but Butcher tells everyone to stay focused. Back at Becca's house, Homelander forces Ryan to jump off a roof to test his powers, which really pisses off Becca. Homelander almost gets violent with Becca, but Ryan sort of awakens his powers and pushes Homelander like a little hero. Ooh, interesting. Back at the boat, Frenchie learns more about Kimiko's past from Kenji, who is actually preparing to escape using his powers. After a couple of hours, the police locate the boys in their boat. However, Kenji uses his powers to destroy the cops' helicopter, which terrifies everyone on the boat.
You don't know that we have to try. Chewie, literally everyone is on their way here right now. We stay here, we die too.
Damn, this dude is dangerous. Back at the church, Carol tells the Deep that he can still return to the Seven, so he shouldn't lose hope. The church lady says that instead of sulking around, the Deep should capture the super terrorist for Vought. At Vought, Stan orders the team to prioritize the super terrorist over anything else, and Homelander has no choice but to follow orders. As the boys try to escape by boat, the Deep attacks them using sea life. However, Butcher kills a gosh darn whale to break through and injures the Deep. The boys then flee through tunnels as the Seven try to catch them. During the chase, A-Train collapses due to his heart condition, and Homelander forces Starlight to attack Huey to prove her loyalty. Gosh. But before Starlight can shine her torch at Huey, Butcher distracts Homelander. To follow up, Kenji attacks Homelander, which allows everyone to escape down the tunnel. Kenji runs with Kimiko, but Stormfront chases them and kills a heck of a lot of civilians along the way. Finally, Stormfront kills Kenji right in front of Kimiko, while enjoying every bit of it. So yeah, she's absolutely a massive racist and as bad as Homelander, or even worse. The next day, Stan publicly denies knowledge of Compound V. He blames Madeline for this mess and presents Stormfront as the hero who stopped the terrorist. Homelander watches all of it, and the dude is jealous. The fourth episode kicks off with a mysterious blonde woman giving an interview about communication. At the hideout, Frenchie tries to comfort Kimiko, but the poor girl is too traumatized to react to anything, even to Frenchie's lovely accent. At Vought, Homelander watches Stormfront criticize the Seven and call her followers to gather, like she's some social media influencer. After getting annoyed, Homelander visits Madeline. Wait, what the hell? Madeline feeds Homelander milk with her fingers, and then they both kiss. Meanwhile, Butcher speaks with Grace, who tells him to track Liberty, who is some soup from the 70s. After that, Grace finally gives Butcher Becca's location. Apparently, Becca is staying at the Vought facility, where they have created a fake neighborhood to keep her and Ryan happy. Moving on from that, we learn that Madeline isn't alive. Actually, it's a shapeshifter named Doppelganger, who's taking Madeline's shape on Homelander's orders. Just disturbing. Back at the hideout, Butcher reveals his plan to break into the Vought facility to reach Becca, and while he's away, Butcher puts MM in charge of the team to investigate Liberty. Later that day, Starlight meets Huey and agrees to join him and MM on his Liberty mission. At Vought, we see that Homelander has decided to remove A-Train from the Seven because of his heart condition. Now, another speedster called Shockwave will replace him. Huey, MM, and Starlight travel to track Liberty while Butcher infiltrates the Vought facility and reunites with Becca. Butcher learns that Becca stayed hidden all this time to protect Ryan. Also, escaping Vought and Homelander isn't as easy as it sounds. Sorry, it doesn't even sound easy. At a motel, Huey and Starlight grow closer like some little love birdies and sleep together. Becca sneaks out to meet Butcher, and she says that her life at the facility began after Ryan's birth. The next day, during a public interview, Homelander reveals that Queen Maeve is gay. Dude, you had no right. Later, Homelander tells Maeve that he knows about Elena. In fact, he acts as if he supports Maeve's relationship. That's about as likely as Butcher stopping his cursing. Back to the boys, Huey, MM, and Starlight visit a woman connected to Liberty, who reveals that Liberty murdered her brother. Finally, the boys learn that Liberty is actually, wait for it, Stormfront.
Yeah, but if Liberty and Stormfront are the same person, then that makes Stormfront like what, like 70 years old?
Holy fuck. Apparently, Liberty is really old, like World War II old, but she hasn't aged because of V. And now she has taken a new identity. At Vought, Homelander confronts Stormfront about talking crap about the company, but Stormfront asks Homelander to learn a thing or two about public manipulation. Meanwhile, Butcher asks Becca to leave with him, and in the middle of the argument, he calls Ryan a soup freak. Yeah, that'll piss off Becca. Obviously, Becca gets furious and reveals that she actually went to Vought to protect Butcher from seeking violent revenge. After that, Becca asks Butcher to leave her alone. In the end, we see that Black Noir has unfortunately identified Butcher. At the same time, Starlight ends her relationship with Huey because this lovey-dovey thing can put Huey at risk. At the church, Carol asks the Deep to choose Cassandra as his partner to improve his public image. Finally, Homelander meets Doppelganger again, and this time, that shapeshifter has taken Homelander's shape to impress the guy. Sadly, Homelander doesn't like it very much, and he kills the shapeshifter. The 5th episode starts with Maeve shooting a movie scene where she comes out as gay. After the scene, Maeve confronts Homelander and asks him to please stop humiliating her. Yeah, please. Later, Ashley shows Homelander footage of him accidentally killing a boy during a mission, and because of that, the news is calling Homelander a war criminal, which obviously pisses him off. Meanwhile, Huey calls Butcher and reveals that Liberty is actually Stormfront, and that she may be linked to Susan's death. However, Butcher is sad about that Becca thing, so he tells Huey he plans to disappear and then destroys his SIM card. On TV, the Deep announces his marriage to Cassandra, who comes off as some religious fanatic. Elsewhere, Butcher visits his Aunt Judy and learns that his father is dying of cancer. However, Butcher is more concerned about his dog. Okay. Later, Huey and MM arrive at Judy's house to confront their British friend, but Butcher spots Black Noir spying on them. Butcher locks the house down, and MM calls in a fake gas leak to put off Noir. Smart. Back at Vought, the company wants Maeve and Elena's relationship to become public. Obviously, Elena refuses. Maeve tells Elena they must cooperate or Homelander will target her. Back to the boys, Butcher is hellbent on facing Noir alone, but Huey and MM won't abandon their friend. Meanwhile, Frenchie learns that Sherry is giving Kimiko assassination jobs. Frenchie doesn't like that, but Kimiko just won't listen to the guy. During all this, the Deep becomes the public face of the church in a commercial. On the contrary, A-Train starts to lose everything after being forced to film a farewell video with Homelander. Next, we meet a Victoria Newman, an anti-soup activist and congresswoman. Newman seems like a brave woman who's leading a rally against Homelander. The crowd at the rally angers Homelander so badly that he imagines massacring the crowd with his laser vision. Good thing he's just thinking about this. Homelander then turns to Stormfront for help, who actually uses online propaganda to rebuild Homelander's image. Back at Judy's house, Butcher's aunt hides Butcher, Huey, and MM in a safe room. However, Noir attacks the boys and almost kills Butcher. At the last moment, Noir gets a call from Stan, who speaks with Butcher. The British trash talker threatens Stan, saying he will reveal the truth about Becca and Ryan. Surprisingly, Stan orders Noir to stand down and leave. Thank goodness. At Vought, Maeve approaches Deep and offers to fix his reputation if he scratches her back as well. Starlight, on the other hand, searches Stormfront's trailer for proof that she is Liberty. However, Stormfront catches her in the act. Stormfront now threatens Starlight about Compound V, and Starlight threatens her back about Liberty. But their threatening session is interrupted by Homelander. Later that night, Homelander thanks Stormfront for helping with his image, and they both have a violent, superpowered, mid-air hanky-panky. Oh, for heaven's sake. The 6th episode begins with a flashback in which Frenchie and Sherry are with their friend Jay. After smoking for a bit, Frenchie suggests robbing a bank. In the present, Starlight asks Frenchie and Huey to remove her tracking chip, and Frenchie removes it. Once that's done, Starlight arrives at the boys' hideout and reveals that she hacked Stormfront's laptop. Annie read some emails with Stan about a breakthrough at the Sage Grove Center. Elsewhere, the Deep visits Maeve and says he failed to recover the plane's black box, but found a GoPro. Oh, the same plane that crashed? Interesting. The same day, the boys infiltrate Sage Grove, while we see another flashback in which Grace forces Frenchie to work for her. Grace even threatens Sherry and Jay if Frenchie says no. In the present, Butcher, Starlight, and Huey stay outside the facility while the rest of them enter. Inside, MM, Frenchie, and Kimiko discover some imprisoned soups. It turns out this hospital is a front for Vought to experiment on civilians. Not only that, but the boys also see Stormfront with a patient. Then, a soup called Lamplighter arrives and burns the patient.
How do you recognize them without a mask and a hood? Later, we have to kill him, of course.
No, we can't.
Oh, jeez. The boys are scared, but they still gather some important files, and Huey asks them to frickin' leave. While moving out, Frenchie encounters Lamplighter and accidentally frees a dangerous patient, Cindy. A guard tries to shoot Cindy, but the soup kills the guard and opens all the cells. It's pure chaos. Even Lamplighter gets overwhelmed by mad soups from every corner, so instead of attacking the boys, he agrees to retreat with their help. Outside the facility, a freed patient attacks Butcher and Starlight and flips their van with a shockwave. Somehow, Butcher kills the soup, but Huey gets badly injured. Starlight can't use her powers due to a lack of electricity, but she still rushes Huey to a hospital. Elsewhere, A-Train meets Deep and Alistair Adana, the chairman of the Church of the Collective. Alistair tells A-Train to take care of his health and maybe take the Deep's help, because he's doing quite well at the moment. In a secure room, Frenchie confronts Lamplighter about what he did to Grace's grandchildren. Okay, what are you talking about? After this, we see another flashback where Frenchie was assigned to track Lamplighter. However, Frenchie abandoned his post to save Jay from an overdose. Lamplighter then attacked Grace's house, and instead of her, he burned Grace's grandchildren.
I didn't know that you were gonna be in that bed. You were supposed to be your boss.
Oh, jeez. Moving on, Lamplighter reveals that Vought is perfecting Compound V for adult use. And as they're talking, a soup named Love Sausage attacks MM. But fortunately, Kimiko saves MM from getting choked by a ropey penis. At the same time, Cindy starts to reach closer to the boys, but Stormfront arrives and electrocutes her. In that moment, Lamplighter becomes the good guy and doesn't reveal anything about the boys, so Stormfront simply leaves. Later, Elena discovers footage that shows Homelander and Maeve abandoning Flight 37. Elena also learns that Maeve plans to use it as leverage against Homelander. Back to the boys, MM, Frenchie, and Kimiko deliver Lamplighter to Grace, who spares him at Frenchie's request. Finally, we're back at Vought Tower, where Stormfront reveals her rather shocking origins to Homelander. Apparently, Stormfront was born in 1919, and she was the first successful Compound V subject. That's not all, though. Compound V was actually created by Stormfront's husband, Frederick Vought, who was a literal Nazi. This also makes Stormfront a Nazi, but hey, Homelander is no different, so he accepts Stormfront's past and kisses her. In the end, we see that Cindy has survived, and she hitchhikes on a highway. The 7th episode opens with Lamplighter meeting Newman and Grace to tell them about Sage Grove. However, Newman demands more proof before acting against Vought. At a cafe, Black Noir attacks and abducts Starlight by using her mother as bait. Now, while Butcher learns that his father is dead, Noir locks Starlight in a cell that suppresses her powers. Come on! At Grace's house, Lamplighter and Huey start to become friends, but then Huey watches Homelander publicly branding Starlight as a traitor. That's a lie. Not only that, but Homelander also announces that they have captured Starlight. That is not so much a lie. Huey then convinces Lamplighter to help him break into Vought Tower so he can save his soup girlfriend. Meanwhile, Butcher visits his family and discovers that his father, Sam, is actually alive. Connie, Butcher's mother, simply lied so Butcher would talk to Sam. Well, that he does, but instead of being polite, Butcher calls his father the infamous C word. Butcher also confronts Sam over his brother Lenny's death, but his father blames Butcher instead. Eventually, Butcher leaves after running out of bad words. During all this, Homelander introduces Stormfront to Ryan and declares they are now a family. A weird one, for sure. Back at Maeve's place, Elena just can't get that Flight 37 footage out of her head, so she decides to leave instead. Later, we see Grace and MM talking to Jonah, as they want the retired Vought scientist to testify against Vought. However, Jonah refuses out of fear for his family. Back at Becca's home, Homelander and Stormfront try taking Ryan away, even though Becca literally begs the sick lovebirds not to do so. Butcher talks to Jonah again and threatens to kill the old guy's family if he doesn't testify at the congressional hearing. Butcher is on a villain arc.
Your whole fucking family dies today, or you help me.
Inside Vought Tower, Lamplighter brings Huey to the Seven's conference room and becomes emotional over all the guilt. In that moment, Lamplighter commits suicide by burning himself, which triggers the fire alarm.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Dude, why? Fortunately, Starlight draws power from the same alarm and escapes her cell. Huey, on the other hand, uses Lamplighter's burnt hand to bypass security. As Starlight makes her way out, she is attacked by Black Noir, but then Maeve intervenes and uses Noir's nut allergy to defeat him. Seriously? Nut? Take note, Butcher. Starlight now asks Maeve to escape with her, but the Queen chooses to stay behind. Back at Becca's home, Homelander tells Ryan that the entire neighborhood is fake and it was created by Vought. Not only that, but Homelander also reveals that Becca already knows about this. Naturally, Ryan turns against Becca and leaves with Homelander and Stormfront. Meanwhile, A-Train and the Deep watch the news about Eagle exposing the truth about the church. Apparently, the church wanted Eagle to abandon his mother, and Eagle was very much against that idea. At the congressional hearing, Jonah finally begins testifying, but in the next moment, multiple heads start exploding. Jonah, Shockwave, and several other people, all dead. Oh my hell, I can't, I just can't. Obviously, the boys get shocked watching all of this happen on live television. The final episode of The Boys Season 2 begins with Grace and Newman meeting the Secretary of Defense, who reveals that the military and law enforcement can use Compound V. Around this time, Becca has somehow escaped the facility and is running through the woods to get Ryan back. The boys, on the other hand, shows that they are stupid enough to plan an attack on Stormfront and the Seven. Huey fails to convince them not to, so Starlight asks for one day to find evidence against Vought. At Vought, Stormfront tells Homelander that Black Noir is in a coma and that the congressional attack has actually helped legalize Compound V. That's just great. Huey and Starlight meet Maeve to convince her to testify, and of course the Queen says, nah, to the suicide mission. Meanwhile, Stan and Alistair talk about bringing the Deep back to the Seven. However, Edgar rejects A-Train. Apparently, Stormfront won't accept him because she's a racist jerk, and A-Train overhears everything. On the other hand, Becca reunites with Butcher, who promises to find Ryan and then calls Stan. While this goes on, Homelander and Stormfront take Ryan to a restaurant, but the kid gets overwhelmed by the crowd, so Homelander grabs Ryan and flies away. A-Train, who is pissed off at Stormfront, suddenly appears in front of Huey and Arnie. They are both clearly shocked, but A-Train gives them some stolen church files that can expose Stormfront's Nazi racist past. Butcher, on the other hand, secretly strikes a deal with Stan. He will deliver Ryan if Becca can stay with him. Come on, man. At the hideout, the boys look at the church's files and they leak Stormfront's past to the media. The news finally breaks and Stormfront flies away to Vought Tower, all pissed. The boys finally make a move and use a sonic device to distract Homelander. As Homelander flies towards the device, Butcher and Becca rescue Ryan. Butcher is supposed to hand over Ryan to Vought, who, by the way, arrives out on the scene. However, Butcher decides not to separate Becca and Ryan and lets them escape just in the nick of time. Homelander returns and he's pissed, so he massacres all the Vought soldiers. Stormfront arrives to join the fight, so Starlight and Kimiko decide to teach the racist scumbags some manners. However, Stormfront starts to dominate both Annie and Kimiko, and that's when Queen Maeve swoops in to help the girls. Annie, Kimiko, and Maeve beat the crap out of Stormfront, forcing her to leave like some coward. However, the woman isn't ready to give up, so she attacks Becca instead. In that moment, Ryan unleashes his powers to save his mother and injures Stormfront really bad. But accidentally, Ryan also wounds Becca, and this wound is unfortunately fatal. Before Becca dies, she makes Butcher promise to protect Ryan. Oh man. Homelander is feeling all sorts of bad things right now, and he tries to take Ryan, but Ryan chooses Butcher. Right then, Maeve threatens to release Flight 37 footage if Homelander doesn't back the F down. In the aftermath, Stan pauses the Compound V rollout and brings Starlight back. Alistair, on the other hand, brings back A-Train, and not the Deep, who quits the church. Finally, we see Newman talking to Alistair on the phone about the church tax stuff, and as soon as Alistair hangs up, his head pops right open. Then we see Newman herself outside of Alistair's home. Her eyes are all white. So it was her who used powers to pop Alistair's head. So Newman is the head popper. Aw man, I'm gonna be sick. To make things worse, Newman later meets Huey at her campaign headquarters and hires him on the spot. The first episode of Season 3 kicks off with the premiere of Dawn of the Seven. It's a propaganda film that shows Homelander telling Stormfront to buzz off after learning that she is a Nazi. Yeah, they really got Charlize Theron to play her. Of course, the real Seven attends the premiere where Homelander publicly states he always hated Stormfront's guts. What a liar. At the event, Huey notices someone calling Victoria Newman Nadia, and naturally Huey starts to wonder what the hell that was about. Meanwhile, we see Butcher, who, by the way, is now working for the government under, wait for it, Huey's supervision. Butcher approaches Huey to get permission to hunt down a soup called Termite, who's basically a horny version of Ant-Man. Well, Huey gives the green light, but tells Butcher to tone down on the violence and the killing. Butcher sends Frenchie and Kimiko to catch the termite, who accidentally kills the men while, pleasuring him in the most twisted way possible. However, after a fight, Butcher captures Termite and hands him over to the authorities like the good government employee. Elsewhere, Huey just can't get the name Nadia out of his head, especially when the same man insists Newman is someone from his past. At the same time, Butcher visits Ryan, who is still traumatized from everything that just has happened. That poor boy. At Vought, the Breaking Bad baddie, Stan Edgar, introduces V24, a temporary compound V that grants powers for 24 hours. Edgar thinks that this crap will help shift Vought towards military and pharmaceutical dominance. Edgar also makes Starlight co-captain of the Seven, which makes Homelander give all sorts of psychotic facial expressions. After a while, Starlight reconnects with her ex, Supersonic, who's now a candidate to join the Seven. Obviously, Huey is jealous, and Starlight is concerned about Supersonic because he's actually a nice dude. Given everything that has been happening, Starlight decides to become the co-captain so she can keep an eye on the sicko Homelander. Talking about Homelander, the dude starts to go really aggressive and even threatens A-Train. After that, he visits a severely injured Stormfront, who's all kinds of messed up. Maeve secretly tells Butcher about a weapon that supposedly killed Soldier Boy, who was the flagship Vought hero before Homelander. Like Homelander, Soldier Boy was really strong. So if some weapon actually killed Soldier Boy, it might, work against Homelander as well. On top of such useful information, Maeve also gives Butcher V24. Butcher, go easy on V24, will ya? Later, Homelander confronts Butcher and threatens him over Ryan. Well, Homelander doesn't kill Butcher because he's in love with his British accent. Kidding. Homelander takes this rivalry as a challenge and proposes a future one-on-one fight to the death. Finally, Huey follows the mysterious man to an alley where he meets Newman. Turns out Newman is indeed Nadia. When the man threatens to expose Newman's past, she pops his face right open. Oh, jeez. Shockingly, Huey witnesses everything and realizes that Newman is a mean lady with superpowers. The second episode kicks off with the Deep promoting a movie about his beef with the Church of the Collective. While the weirdo keeps on being stupid, Butcher wonders if it's a yay or nay on using the V24. Right then he gets a call from Ryan, and the poor boy tries to connect with Butcher emotionally. Oh, also, it's Homelander's birthday, and the attention-seeking bastard wants some love. So he visits Stormfront, who's barely alive and unable to say, well, anything. This, of course, pisses off Homelander and makes him sad. Meanwhile, Huey and Starlight begin to investigate Newman's past as Nadia. Great, make another powerful soup your enemy. At Vought, Homelander interacts with Supersonic, and the caped baddie clearly isn't happy. Elsewhere, Butcher asks MM about hunting down Soldier Boy's past, but MM wants to prioritize his family over, well, this. At the same time, Frenchie and Kimiko track down the Crimson Countess, a soup who worked alongside Soldier Boy. The duo asks Crimson about Soldier Boy, but the red suit lady refuses to say anything and escapes. While all of this is happening, Huey infiltrates Red River, a facility for superpowered children. There, Huey discovers that Newman, aka Nadia, was raised under Edgar's supervision. What the f? At the same time, Butcher confronts Gunpowder, another member of the Soldier Boys band, about the dead superhero. As expected, Gunpowder doesn't reveal crap and even injures Butcher while escaping. The next day, Homelander attempts to save a suicidal girl. Of course, Homelander doesn't give a crap about the girl, but he's ready to do it for the news. But as Homelander acts all sweet with the girl, he learns that Stormfront has committed suicide. Then, instead of saving the suicidal girl, Homelander forces her to jump off the building. Oh gosh, that poor girl. Back at Huey, the dude shares the truth about Newman with Starlight, realizing that he was a fool to work with a gosh darn head-popping soup. Huey then decides that he's better off working with his British friend Butcher. MM also agrees to join the fight with Butcher, so the band is getting back together. Butcher, on the other hand, finally takes V24. Ah, damn it. With this new temporary power, Butcher confronts Gunpowder again. Shockingly, Butcher overpowers Gunpowder and fries him using laser vision. Great, a British superhuman. Before dying, Gunpowder reveals that Soldier Boy didn't actually die. Instead, he disappeared during a CIA operation that involved Grace. Oh, crap, you gotta be kidding me. During all this mess, Homelander loses his patience and publicly announces that he is superior to everyone and the only real hero.
I'm better. I am better.
So yeah, now everyone knows that this dude has some serious Superman complex. The third episode kicks off with a flashback. Starlight's mother is pushing her to perform in a pageant, even though the girl is in so much pain. Awful. Coming back to the present day, Homelander learns that his public rant has actually boosted his popularity amongst certain people. Are you serious right now? Naturally, the big weirdo thinks that he can do anything, and because the people will still love him. Elsewhere, Butcher suffers some serious side effects of B24, but he doesn't tell anyone about it. Huey and MM fully rejoin the boys, and they decide to continue their mission against Homelander. Of course, Huey wants to take some time off from Newman's office, so he asks Kimiko to break his arm. That's one way to do it. At Vought, people are trying to choose the new members of the Seven, and Starlight wants to go with the good guys. As expected, the selection committee doesn't like Starlight's choice that much. Around the same time, Frenchie helps Sherry escape with a fake identity, but refuses to leave with her. Dude's committed to his mission. Later, the boys visit Ryan, where it's revealed that MM has rejoined specifically because Soldier Boy killed his family. What? Back at Vought HQ, Starlight recently warns Supersonic about Homelander, but the dude chooses to stay and support Annie. Okay, Huey, where the hell are you? Moving on, we see A-Train revealing to his brother that if he ever runs again, his heart might fail. To make things worse, A-Train also learns that a racist soup has killed a black man for nothing. So A-Train's family pushes him to freaking do something about it. Okay, now we see a flashback through Grace, where we learn the truth of what happened to Soldier Boy and his team. Payback. Oh, also, we seen Black Noir without a mask. And he actually seems like a nice dude. However, Soldier Boy is pissed that Supernatural has ended, so he is always a jerk to his teammates. Soldier Boy goes on a CIA mission, and even though he doesn't die, the dude is captured by the Russians. Back to the present, Butcher continues to get messed up because of V24. In fact, he gets so damn angry that he pushes Ryan away while blaming him for Becca's death. Man, don't piss off the soup kid. Meanwhile, our boy Frenchie gets captured by Nina, who wants to know about Sherry. At Vought, Starlight and Homelander get into an argument, and Starlight threatens to expose Homelander's past crimes. Shockingly, though, Homelander isn't scared. Not even a bit. In fact, the big, mean dude threatens to kill everyone around the globe if Starlight reveals anything to the public. Yeah, we don't want that. And just like that, Homelander regains total control of the Seven, and the first thing he does is bring back the Deep. And just for fun, Homelander forces the Deep to eat a live octopus. Hot damn! Elsewhere, the boys shift their focus towards Russia after learning Soldier Boy may still be alive and connected to a powerful weapon. Finally, Homelander publicly announces both Supersonic and the Deep as new members of the Seven. Not only that, but Homelander falsely declares that he and Starlight are romantically involved. Starlight obviously wants to puke, but she plays along anyway.
Hashtag Homelight.
The fourth episode begins with Huey confronting Butcher for using V24. After being sarcastic for a short while, Butcher admits he took the drug to kill gunpowder. Around the same time, Homelander sort of targets the higher-ups at Vought during an interview. So Edgar pursues Newman to somehow put a leash on Homelander. For obvious reasons, Newman hesitates, but she can't say no to Edgar. Elsewhere, the boys meet Nina and strike a deal with her for intel on the weapon tied to Soldier Boy. Meanwhile, Starlight continues her fake relationship with Homelander, who just isn't good boyfriend material for a non-racist woman. While all this goes on, A-Train pushes for justice against Blue Hawk. Now, that's the scumbag who killed an innocent black man because of his race. But of course, Vought doesn't want to help A-Train because admitting they have a racist soup isn't good for their image. Next, we see that the boys are all set to leave for Russia on a good old Soldier Boy hunt. While the boys go for a vacation, Starlight consults Queen Maeve about a weapon called BCL Red. During their conversation, Starlight realizes that Maeve has been orchestrating events from behind the scenes. Well, duh! She wants to bring down Homelander at all costs. After learning all that, Starlight tries to recruit Supersonic against Homelander, and of course, the lover boy agrees. However, things are not great with the Seven, especially for A-Train. As expected, A-Train wants Homelander to do something about Blue Hawk, who's been terrorizing black people. However, Deep thinks that isn't their problem, and Homelander backs Deep instead of supporting poor A-Train. Seriously, what did you expect, A-Train? In Russia, Kimiko goes on a mission for Nina so the boys can help their side of the bargain. On this mission, Kimiko has to kill some people, and she does exactly what Nina says. However, the poor girl is so shaken by the violence that she wants to leave. Back in America, Newman decides to betray Edgar and expose his secrets to the public. What the hell? So now, Edgar is out of authority, and Newman is free to do whatever the hell she wants. And around the same time, Butcher takes more V24, despite the risks. Huey decides to use the bloody thing as well. Come on, guys! Well, they aren't the only ones taking a drug, as elsewhere, Newman injects her daughter with Compound V to ensure her safety. Great parenting. Okay, back to Russia. The boys infiltrate a facility where they see Soldier Boy imprisoned in a chamber. The stupidity takes over and the boys free the Soldier Boy because, hey, who doesn't love Jensen Ackles?
Fast flash is cool. Francois Sapar, Flash ain't no dude, and you don't stop. Sure shot. Go out.
Immediately after being released, the Soldier Boy unleashes a massive energy blast from his chest that severely injures Kimiko. The Soldier Boy escapes right after, but that's not the worst part. Shockingly, Soldier Boy's attack has sort of taken away Kimiko's powers, and she can no longer heal.
She's not healing. Why she's not healing? Kimiko! Why does she not heal?
Dude, if Kimiko dies, I'm going to be really pissed. Back in the US, Homelander is too happy since Edgar can no longer control him. Things are already scary for Starlight, and to make it worse, A-Train exposes Starlight's plan to Homelander. And Homelander, being the sadistic bastard that he is, rewards Starlight with Supersonic's corpse. The 5th episode takes us back to Moscow, where MM enjoys a video of Soldier Boy undergoing torture experiments by the Russians. While Frenchie prays that Kimiko doesn't die, Huey starts to feel the after effects of V24. Billy wants to say, "Kid, join the club," but then he sees a vision of a young boy while looking at Huey. At Vought Tower, Ashley accepts the nomination to replace Stan as the CEO, and the idiot Deep becomes the new head of crime analytics. So everything's peachy at Vought. Later, the boys return from Russia, and Huey learns from Annie about what happened to Supersonic. At the same time, Huey tells Annie he used V24 and sort of enjoyed it. Now, as Butcher has a rather lovely time with Maeve, Soldier Boy sneaks through a Russian airport to somehow get back to America. The next day, Kimiko finally wakes up and she seems happy that her powers are gone. Back at Vought HQ, Starlight lashes out at A-Train for betraying her, but the dude denies his involvement. Liar! Regardless, things finally start to work out for A-Train as Blue Hawk agrees to stop harassing innocent black people and apologize for being a racist scumbag. Somehow, Soldier Boy has arrived in New York City and he's just confused about everything. Then he hears a Russian radio broadcast which triggers the dude's trauma, and he kills several people with his crazy ass blast. Homelander has zero idea that Soldier Boy is back in action, but the boys instantly realize that the racist Captain America is behind that explosion. On the same day, Blue Hawk tries to apologize at a community center. However, after getting cornered for being an asshole, he loses control and attacks everyone like a bloody madman. A-Train stops Blue Hawk, but then he finds his brother Nathan paralyzed on the ground. Oh, jeez. Next, the boys visit the Legend, a former vice president at Vought. The Legend confirms that Soldier Boy met him to take his suit and ask for the Crimson Countess's address. While the boys get a lead on the Soldier Boy, Homelander confronts Maeve for sleeping with Butcher. The dude's clearly jealous, so he asks Black Noir to attack her. Very mature, Homelander. Back at the hospital, Kimiko discovers she can speak now, and in excitement, she kisses Frenchie. Just when Frenchie starts to feel some sort of happiness, Nina arrives to shatter the poor guy's dreams. Elsewhere, Billy and MM arrive at Crimson Countess's place to use her as bait for Soldier Boy. MM wants to kill Soldier Boy to get justice for his family, but Butcher sedates the guy. Starlight also arrives to help, but Huey says that he doesn't want her here. That's mean. Finally, Soldier Boy arrives at the trailer and Billy asks the Soup if they can become friends. But Soldier Boy is more interested in talking to Crimson, who reveals that all Payback members hated him and refused to save Soldier Boy from the Russians. As expected, Soldier Boy toasts Crimson with his energy blast. Oh, geez, slow down on the killing, dude. Once all this is over, Huey tells Starlight that they need Soldier Boy as a weapon to kill Homelander. The 6th episode kicks off with Homelander and everyone at Vought realizing that it's Soldier Boy who killed Crimson. Black Noir listens to everything, and he almost pisses his pants after hearing about Soldier Boy. Then the Ninja Soup silently removes his tracking chip and just disappears. Elsewhere, Billy Butcher and Huey strike a deal with Soldier Boy. They'll help Soldier Boy find payback if the veteran Soup kills Homelander. Meanwhile, Kimiko gets attacked in the hospital by one of Nina's scary men. Oh, also, MM is pissed at Butcher because he wanted to kill Soldier Boy so badly. While talking to Annie, MM reveals that Soldier Boy will possibly target the TNT twins next. At Vought Tower, A-Train starts to get incredibly frustrated because nobody wants to take any action against the jerkwad Blue Hawk. At this point, we see Frenchie, Kimiko, and Sherry captured by Nina. The Russian lady is all sorts of mean, and this entire experience forces Kimiko to kill Nina's men. Turns out MM was right, as Soldier Boy is indeed going after the TNT twins. Soldier Boy, Butcher, and Huey arrive at Herogasm, which is basically an of all the sickest soups. A-Train, Starlight, and MM are also there, and since Huey has used V24, the dude confronts A-Train and directly asks for an apology. This time, though, A-Train actually apologizes to Huey from the heart. Just real quick, the V24 gives Huey the teleportation ability, but there's a catch. Every time Huey uses his ability, he teleports out of his clothes. So yeah, Huey's power is teleportation and getting naked. Moving on from that, Starlight starts evacuating people from TNT Twins' place so that Soldier Boy doesn't fry everyone with his blast. MM tries to stop Soldier Boy, but the dude is just too damn strong, and Soldier Boy confronts the TNT Twins, who reveal that Black Noir planned the entire betrayal thingy. Naturally, Soldier Boy loses control and kills the twins with his explosion. Talking about killing, A-Train also takes revenge on Blue Hawk by dragging the racist super jerk at super speed and killing him. See, Flash, this is how you kill bad people. Sadly, though, A-Train has a heart attack and collapses right after. Finally, Homelander arrives at the dead TNT Twins' place and sees Soldier Boy. Homelander is pissed at Butcher, so he fires a laser beam to kill his British nemesis. However, Butcher has taken V24, so not only does he survive, but he also starts fighting Homelander. Huey also arrives and surprises Homelander with his teleportation ability. Now we have Soldier Boy, Huey, and Butcher teaming up on Homelander's ass, which forces the cheap Superman knockoff to flee. After the battle, Starlight goes public and reveals that Soldier Boy is alive. She also exposes Homelander's abuse and quits the Seven. Sheesh.
I'm not Starlight anymore. My name is Annie January, and I quit.
The 7th episode begins with Vought, stating in the media that Starlight is a liar and Homelander is the victim here. You know what, screw that. Meanwhile, the legend tells Huey about every awful thing Soldier Boy did in the past. Basically, he's no saint, so Huey should be careful. Soldier Boy, on the other hand, is all set to go after his next target, Mindstorm. Elsewhere, Homelander confronts Maeve, who is held captive at some Vought facility. Homelander asks Maeve about Soldier Boy's ability to burn the V out of soups. Then the creep says that he wants to harvest Maeve's eggs, and obviously Maeve is like, yuck, dude. Billy Butcher, Huey Campbell, and Soldier Boy track down Mindstorm, who traps Butcher in some sort of mental nightmare. In this nightmare, Butcher relives his abusive childhood and the tragic death of his brother Lenny. Expectedly, Huey wants to help his friend, but Soldier Boy wants to keep moving, and he drags Huey along. At the same time, Frenchie and MM investigate the weapon used on Soldier Boy to capture him all those years ago. The duo learn that it was a vapor-based weapon that subdued Soldier Boy back then. Kimiko, however, has been asking around for Compound V to regain her powers. And at Vought HQ, Starlight discovers that Temp V, or V24, is lethal after repeated use. So yeah, both Butcher and Huey are at great risk right now because they're using Temp V like caffeine. During all this mess, Homelander tries to recover his image by working alongside Newman. Oh, also, A-Train recovers with a new heart transplant, so that's good, I guess. Now we see Black Noir, who remembers how he and Payback betrayed Soldier Boy after Edgar's approval. Apparently, Vought wanted to replace Soldier Boy with Homelander. Basically, they replaced a scumbag with another scumbag, but during that betrayal, Soldier Boy messed up Black Noir. Like, really messed him up. That's why Black Noir is so damn scared of the Soldier Boy. Back to Soldier Boy's hunt, Huey faces Mindstorm to break the nightmare to free Butcher. Mindstorm also reveals that Noir and Vought betrayed Soldier Boy, and of course, Soldier Boy kills the dude right after. The next day, Starlight tells Butcher that Temp V will kill him and Huey, but Butcher ignores all of it. On the other hand, Kimiko gets the Compound V, so now she has her powers back. That's not the end of it, though. At the end of the day, Soldier Boy calls Homelander and reveals that he is in fact Homelander's biological father.
Vogelbaum made a kid, born spring 1981. A boy.
Aw, for damn sake. The 8th episode kicks off with Homelander tracking down Ryan. Since the little dude is pissed off at Butcher for shouting at him days ago, Ryan starts to bond with Homelander. Ah, damn it, Butcher. As of now, people are divided between Starlight and Homelander, and in the middle of all of this chaos, Vought is secretly attempting to move Queen Maeve, but she escapes custody. Elsewhere, Billy abandons Huey to take him away from Temp V, and MM receives Novichok, the weapon that can work against Soldier Boy. Around the same time, Black Noir returns to Vought HQ, where Homelander asks the scared fellow if he knew that Soldier Boy was his father. Of course, Black Noir knew everything, so as expected, Homelander kills Black Noir without giving it much thought. Back to the boys, Starlight reunites with Huey and the team, and they learn about Soldier Boy and Homelander's connection. Meanwhile, Soldier Boy opens up to Butcher about his past and his hatred towards his own father. Seriously, what's up with the parents in this show? At Vought Tower, Butcher, Maeve, and Soldier Boy finally arrive to face Homelander, but then Homelander introduces Ryan, hoping Soldier Boy will be happy to see his grandson. However, Soldier Boy wants a clean slate.
Weak, sniveling pussy. Weak? You're a fucking disappointment.
So he wants to kill both Homelander and Ryan now. I'm not even surprised anymore. But Butcher doesn't want Ryan to die. So instead of helping Soldier Boy, Butcher starts attacking him, and before Soldier Boy can understand what the hell is happening, Homelander also joins Butcher. Butcher and Homelander fighting together? Okay? Maeve, however, goes against Homelander, so it's a crazy battle royale situation right now. During all this mess, the boys try to subdue Soldier Boy with the toxin, but he starts resisting it and prepares for another explosion. Right then, Maeve, who, by the way, got one eye damaged, jumps out of the building with Soldier Boy. Sadly, Soldier Boy explodes in the middle of the air with Maeve. Wait, is Maeve dead? No! After all that, Butcher collapses from Temp V side effects and learns that he has limited time to live. The good thing is that Maeve survived the explosion but lost her powers. But Maeve wants to keep the alive part a secret from Homelander, so she flees with Elena. Soldier Boy, on the other hand, is back in the box. At the same time, Starlight abandons her superhero identity and officially fills out the form to join the boys. Finally, we have Homelander hanging out with his son in a public rally, where a protester throws something at Ryan. At this point, Homelander doesn't care and kills the protester in front of the crowd. And guess what? The sick crowd loved it. In fact, Ryan also loved it. Not good. The first episode of Season 4 opens with Newman addressing a rally, while the boys try to infiltrate the building. The boys do a pretty good job at getting inside, but then Homelander shows up with Ryan.
They're only humans. And toys for our amusement. That's right. We got this.
Butcher, being the risk taker he is, tries talking to Ryan, who just doesn't want to listen to reason. In another corner of the building, Newman's daughter Zoe reveals her disgusting snake powers and violently attacks and injures Kimiko. Outside, Huey confronts Newman, but she proposes a truth in exchange for the files that Huey can use to expose her. Later, Homelander starts getting frustrated because, well, he's aging. Well, yeah, everyone hates aging, but in that frustration, Homelander begins to reshape the Seven by recruiting Sister Sage, a cunning fox who became insanely smart because of Compound V. Homelander believes Sage will help him maintain control because he's way too stupid to do it alone. Elsewhere, Butcher meets his old friend and comrade Joe Kessler, who, according to Butcher, died a long time ago. Apparently, Butcher was wrong because Joe seems very much alive with all that Negan energy. At Vought, we learn that Vought has brought something else to wear Black Noir's suit so that the world doesn't know that the real Noir is dead. Then Homelander hosts a loyalty test for A-Train and the Deep. Apparently, they bring in loyal supporters for the Seven, including Todd, Monique's boyfriend, to the HQ. But instead of treating these supporters with cake, Homelander orders his minions Soups to beat every one of them with baseball bats. Holy crap! Turns out this is an elaborate plan of Sage, who asks A-Train to secretly plant the dead bodies in one of the protests. Now everyone will think that Starlight's supporters killed these guys. Huey, meanwhile, is having a hard time after his father had a stroke. To make things even more challenging, Huey's mother, Daphne, has suddenly come back. Daphne abandoned Huey and his father years ago, so Huey isn't all that welcoming right now. Talk about tough times. Frenchie starts to get close to Colin, one of Starlight's supporters, and naturally, Kimiko doesn't like that and emotionally distances herself. The second episode begins with A-Train feeling incredibly guilty for killing 7 supporters with a gosh darn baseball bat. The new Black Noir tries to lighten A-Train's mood, but A-Train just tells fake Black Noir to bugger off. At the hospital, Huey Campbell confronts his mother and learns that she holds power of attorney for his father. Clearly, Huey is pissed off, so he storms out. Elsewhere, Frenchie spends the night with Colin while Kimiko goes to therapy. Back at the boys' hideout, Butcher tells the rest of the team about his illness and hallucinations, which are all thanks to Temp V. MM is the team leader now, so he throws Butcher out of the team, thinking he can be too dangerous. Come on, man. At Vought, Homelander wants to introduce Ryan as Homeboy, but Sage says that Ryan must build his own identity. Homelander doesn't like that idea, but he still agrees. At the same time, the boy tracks down Sage to a Vought conspiracy-themed event. Butcher is also at the event, and clearly MM is pissed. But hey, Butcher isn't someone who'll just sit on his ass and do nothing. There, we also meet Firecracker, yet another sicko and racist soup who is all about propaganda and lies. Meanwhile, Huey Huey and Starlight follow A-Train, who's getting one heck of a reality check from his brother Nathan. Nathan talks about family and standing up for what's right. Now, A-Train wants to do something right. So he secretly gives Huey evidence, proving that Starlight's supporters were framed for the murders.
What is this? Security cam footage of your two Starlighters. About a mile from the bodies at time of death.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Cut to Ryan, and the kid attempts a staged solo rescue but accidentally kills his stunt coach. But instead of telling Ryan that he did wrong, Homelander tells him not to give a crap about a lowly human. Honestly, that's awful. Back at the event, Sage realizes the boys are spying on her, so she orders Firecracker and Splinter to kill them. As expected, the boys kill Splinter and overpower Firecracker, who escapes after confirming that Sage is targeting them. Later, we learn that it was Frenchie who killed Colin's parents while he was working for Nina. Now he's sleeping with Colin. Gosh, that's disturbing. Later, Butcher steals MM again and asks the big man to help him save Ryan. Sadly, MM refuses to help, so yeah, it looks like Butcher is all on his own. Aw, man. The third episode begins with Homelander introducing the updated 7. There's A-Train, the Deep, Fake Black Noir, and Firecracker and Sister Sage as the new members. Homelander also brings Ryan on stage, even though the kid is uncomfortable. Elsewhere, Billy meets Joe, who gives him a sedative to subdue Ryan so Butcher can bring the kid back. Okay. On the same day, President-elect Singer holds a meeting, but excludes Newman. Still, Newman forces her way in and publicly agrees to anti-soup policies. But wait, aren't you also a soup?
It's time we ban soups from the military, from private policing, and all other government positions. Don't you agree?
Absolutely.
At the boys' HQ, Kimiko asks Frenchie to help her take down a human trafficking group that's linked to her past. Meanwhile, Butcher meets Ryan and shares his personal trauma about his brother. The big British brute also listens to Ryan as the kid opens up about accidentally killing a guy. In that moment, Butcher decides to not drug the kid and instead regains his trust. Oh. Back at Vought, Homelander learns that someone has leaked the information about the murders to Starlight. Speaking of Starlight, Annie confronts Firecracker for speaking crap about her in public. Turns out years ago, Starlight treated Firecracker badly during some pageant, so spreading lies about Annie has become Firecracker's life's mission. Firecracker isn't holding a grudge, she's bloody living with it. Now we move over to an ice skating event where MM and Huey are spying on Newman. Huey has planted a bug, and he overhears Homelander and Sage convincing Newman to publicly reveal herself as a soup. Not only that, but they also want Newman to throw a dislike at anti-soup laws. While listening to all that, Huey's sweat drips on Homelander. Naturally, Homelander tries to chase Huey, and even kills multiple civilians in the process. Unfortunately, though, Huey escapes at the last minute with A-Train's help. Geez, stop scaring me like that, will ya? Elsewhere, we see Joe Kessler pursuing Butcher to either control or kill Ryan before he becomes like Homelander. However, Butcher doesn't want to rush anything. At Vought Tower, Homelander confronts Ryan about meeting Butcher, but Ryan lies. Homelander doesn't hurt Ryan or anything, but he triggers something bad inside of him. Finally, Homelander decides to revisit the lab where he was basically created. The fourth episode opens with Homelander returning to the underground lab where he was raised as a child. These lab folks were mean to Homelander, so the dude wants to return the favor. At the hospital, Huey learns that his father will soon be taken off life support. Clearly, Huey doesn't know what to do, but he comes up with an idea. Huey and Kimiko meet A-Train and pressure him into stealing Compound V from Homelander's apartment. Oh gosh, that's stupid. A-Train doesn't want to do this, but he eventually agrees to help and get the damn Compound V. Right after A-Train leaves, Huey and Kimiko are ambushed by Shining Light operatives who injure Huey. Meanwhile, Homelander continues to torture and humiliate the scientists at the lab like a bloody maniac. At the same time, Sage gives Firecracker a major broadcast, where Firecracker publicly talks about Annie's abortion in the past. Oh, jeez. Naturally, this sets Annie off, and she attacks Firecracker on live television. Sure, seeing Firecracker getting beaten up is satisfying, but that's exactly what Sage wanted, to ruin Annie's public image. During this, Butcher and Frenchie break into Firecracker's trailer to find something, but Ezekiel spots them. Frenchie is thrown out of the fight, but Butcher somehow kills Ezekiel by causing his body to explode.
Fucking hell.
Jeez, what's going on, Butcher? After all this, Frenchie confesses to Colin that he killed his family in the past, and of course, Colin doesn't take that all that well. Later that day, A-Train actually delivers V to Huey, but Huey decides to not use it on his father, especially after seeing what happened with Butcher. Shockingly, though, Huey's father suddenly revives, and seems like Daphne stole the Compound V and gave it to her husband. Finally, we're back at the lab, where Homelander has killed every scientist except for the lead scientist, Barbara, who is left to look at the dead bodies. police. The 5th episode takes us back to the hospital where Huey learns that his mother found the vial of Compound V. She assumed that Huey wanted to use it on his father, so she did it herself. And hey, it seems like everything worked out well because Huey's dad is saved. I don't like this, guys. Back at the boys' hideout, Butcher reveals the existence of a soup-killing virus linked to the soup school, Goldolkin University.
So whether you want to walk the mean streets or the red carpet, Godolkin is a safe space for you to thrive.
According to Butcher, Newman has this virus and they must find it. So MM takes help from Stan Edgar, who leads them to this farm, where they discover a hidden lab with some scary-ass mutated animals. Newman also arrives on the farm at the same time and is shocked to see that the farm is all kinds of destroyed. Of course, Newman can kill the boys right then and there, but she has all the farm and the mutated animals to worry about. Also, Edgar is with the boys and Newman isn't ready to hurt her adoptive father again. Anyway, the boys search the farm and find Samir, a former Vought scientist who explains that the virus leak mutated the animals and that only one dose remains. That's great. At Vought, A-Train confesses to Ashley that he was behind the leak, but it seems like Ashley isn't pissed at A-Train. Back at the hospital, Huey sees that his father's new powers are going haywire. He's phasing through walls and he accidentally kills some people.
What's happening to me?
Oh my hell! Meanwhile, Homelander starts connecting with Ryan during work, and sadly the boy starts to get drawn towards Homelander. At the same time, Ashley frames a random jerk for the leak. Now, this guy will get killed, and nobody will doubt A-Train. Well played, Ashley. Back at the farm, the boys need to escape these mutated animals, so they use the last dose to kill the unholy animals. During this chaos, Samir disappears, leaving only part of his leg behind. Wait, he is dead already? Back at Vought, Homelander declares that the Seven will no longer act as celebrities, but as gods.
You'll no longer be beloved celebrities. You will be wrathful gods. When the time comes, will you answer the call?
He even introduces Sam and Kate from Goldolkin, and from the spin-off show Gen V to the Seven. Great, more bad guys. Elsewhere, we see that Frenchie has decided to surrender to the police. The dude just can't get over the guilt that he killed Colin's family. At the hospital, Huey's father refuses to live like this, and he asks Huey to euthanize him. Huey is obviously sad about everything, but he agrees that his father's suffering should end. Finally, in some hidden location, we see that Butcher secretly cut off Samir's leg and captured him. Now, Newman and everyone else thinks that Samir is dead, so Butcher can use him to create the virus with Joe Kessler's help. The 6th episode begins with Butcher asking Samir to recreate the virus. However, Samir doesn't want to do it because this virus can also kill Newman. Is this his love? On the same day, Kimiko visits Frenchie in prison, but that idiot refuses to see her. Elsewhere, A-Train calls MM and tells him that he can't help him anymore. For now, Ashley saved him, but Homelander might learn at some point that A-Train was the leak. However, MM convinces A-Train to keep helping them. Then A-Train reveals a soup gathering at Tech Knight's mansion. MM decides to infiltrate by using Web Weaver's costume, who is just a useless and drug-addicted soup. Homelander, Ryan, and members of the Seven are at the party, and Huey disguised himself as Web Weaver and its bugs at Tech Knight's mansion. During the event, Homelander discusses with Newman about convincing powerful elites to commit treason. Despite her concerns, Newman agrees to play her part in the plan. Meanwhile, Tech Knight takes Web Weaver, or Huey, to his secret hanky-panky torture chamber, and it looks gross. Please don't tell me that this dude is the Batman equivalent of the boys universe. Obviously, Huey struggles to maintain the act and reveals his identity, so Tech Knight captures the dude after literally traumatizing him with all the shady stuff. While Huey goes missing, Starlight, Kimiko, and MM infiltrate the party. Annie subdues Firecracker, and Kimiko keeps searching for the hidden entrance. At the same time, MM confronts Sage and shoots her in the head. But right after that, MM suddenly collapses onto the ground. Fortunately, though, A-Train drops MM at the hospital safely without raising suspicion from Homelander. Also, we see that Sage hasn't died, but she's sort of lost her mind temporarily after getting shot in the frickin' head. And Homelander, well, he doesn't know what the hell happened to Sage and struggles to control the elite meeting. However, Newman steps in and successfully takes control of the situation. At the hospital, MM learns that all the anxiety and exhaustions are affecting his health, so he must slow down. Back in the hanky-panky basement, Starlight and Kimiko locate Tech Knight and start to torture the pervert. Tech Knight then reveals that he, Homelander, and Sage plan to turn prisons into internment camps. You know, that's pretty evil. In fact, that's so evil that Tech Knight's assistant gets pissed and kills Tech Knight, allowing the boys to escape. Finally, Butcher returns to Samir and continues forcing him to develop the virus. But we get the real kick after learning that Joe Kessler isn't real. He's basically a fragment of Butcher's imagination.
Unless, of course, you got a big old fat V-up brain tumor, which is why you are seeing me in the first place. I killed Ezekiel for you. I am inside of you. I am you.
What the The 7th episode kicks off with Homelander revealing that they found some bugs inside Tech Knight's mansion. Homelander then asks Firecracker to find the mole and sideline Sage, who is back to normal by now. What can you say? You embarrassed the dude at the meeting. Later that day, A-Train secretly photographs Sage, passing a file over to someone. A-Train sends the picture to MM back at HQ. Butcher admits that he kidnapped Samir and explains that the soup virus could wipe out all soups globally. Of course, the team doesn't want that, so Butcher explains that he doesn't want to use the virus that way. To sweeten the deal, Butcher reveals that Grace has arranged for Frenchie's release. At this point, MM returns the team's leadership to Butcher. Later, Butcher, Annie, and Huey break into an apartment tied to Sage. There, the team discovers a plan to assassinate President Singer so Vought's pawn Calhoun can come to power. Before they act further, the boys get attacked by a mysterious shapeshifter who escapes right after. The same shapeshifter then touches a woman and takes her form. During all of this, Frenchie and Kimiko guard Samir, who reveals that Butcher has been talking to himself like some maniac. At Vought HQ, Homelander and Firecracker interrogate Webweaver, who, apart from farting every second, admits to giving his suit to Butcher. Obviously, Homelander kills him after getting sick of all the farting. Back at the hideout, Frenchie and Kimiko agree to free Samir after he finishes the virus. Elsewhere, Huey tries to convince Newman to abandon Homelander's plan, but the woman just isn't ready to listen. Shortly after, the Deep and fake Black Noir find the boys' HQ and attack them. Fortunately, A-Train and MM arrive on the scene and scare off the baddies.
You're the leak? Bro, it was you, bro.
Deep, just FYI, I have always fucking hated your ass.
That's so heroic of A-Train, but at this point his secret is out, so A-Train asks Ashley to flee immediately. Ashley refuses though, and she asks A-Train to remove his tracking chip. At Vought HQ, Sage reveals that she always knew A-Train was the mole, but she allowed him to stay free for some larger strategy. Of course, Homelander is too stupid to think this far ahead, so he fires Sage. Meanwhile, Samir tries to escape by infecting Kimiko with the virus, but Frenchie amputates Kimiko's leg to save her. Right after, they present Kimiko's infected limb to Butcher, wondering if the virus is strong enough to kill Homelander. Later that night, Butcher collapses because of his condition. Oh gosh. Finally, we see that Annie, who was recently with Huey, is actually a shapeshifter. The shapeshifter steals Huey's laptop after seducing him, while the real Annie is imprisoned elsewhere. That's identity and boyfriend theft? The final episode of The Boys Season 4 begins with MM asking Frenchie to extract the soup virus from Kimiko's severed leg. Meanwhile, Huey is still unaware that he's hanging out with the same shapeshifter who wants to kill Singer. Later that day, fake Annie proposes to Huey, who pulls out a ring as well. So Huey gets engaged to the shapeshifter and they sleep together. But soon after, the shapeshifter's disguise begins to fail. So she gets up and leaves before Huey can realize something is off. At the hospital, Billy continues to hallucinate Joe Kessler, who wants Butcher to commit full-scale soup genocide. At Vought Tower, Homelander finds a photo of Butcher and Becca in Ryan's bag. Obviously, this pisses off Homelander, who asks Ryan to be freaking loyal towards him. However, Ryan runs away after getting scared of his dad. Next, we see the shapeshifter meeting up with the real Annie. The shapeshifter reveals that she wants to kill Singer while disguised as Annie. Oh no! We now cut to Firecracker's live show, where Homelander forces Newman to reveal that she's a soup. Not only that, but Homelander also threatens Newman's daughter to keep her in check. Around the same time, Huey discovers that Newman's files are missing. So yeah, with Newman's secret out and the files missing, there's nothing stopping the enemy from targeting Singer. So the boys decide to coordinate with the Secret Service to protect Singer. Meanwhile, Homelander orders a purge and tasks the Seven to eliminate all Vought employees, including Ashley. Ashley hears all of it and injects herself with Compound V so she can survive. Instantly, she begins to transform into God knows what. Right after that, Grace arrives with Ryan to assist Butcher because the guy does need some help. Man, I feel so bad for Butcher right now. MM, Huey, and fake Annie are now in a government basement to protect Singer. MM thinks that the shapeshifter can attack at any moment, and they could be anyone in the room. Ain't that the truth? In the next moment, the shifter says something something to Huey that makes him realize that this Annie is the shapeshifter. As soon as Huey alerts the team, the shapeshifter starts attacking. Fortunately, though, the real Annie somehow escapes captivity and joins the fight. Annie, I mean the real one, ultimately kills the shapeshifter, so Singer is safe for now. Afterward, Kimiko confesses her feelings for Frenchie, and they kiss. Aww. Back at the hospital, Butcher and Grace attempt to recruit Ryan to kill Homelander. They also tell Ryan that Homelander actually forced himself on Becca, but Ryan doesn't want to take any part in this. In fact, the kid starts to get aggressive, and when Grace tries to gas him, Ryan reacts violently and kills her. Oh my hell. Ryan leaves, and the entire ordeal breaks Butcher emotionally. Back at the boys' hideout, Frenchie has completed the virus extraction and prepared a weapon. Right after that, Huey brings Newman in for the deal. Yes, guys, there's no need to kill Newman now. Right after that, Butcher arrives with his new tentacle-like veins, and the guy brutally kills Newman. Bro, I just said no killing! Turns out Butcher has decided to embrace his darker side, which finally unleashes his full Compound V powers. Now, Butcher no longer needs the boys. In the aftermath, Sage reveals to Homelander that everything went according to her plan. Singer is arrested for Newman's death, and Calhoun has taken power. Homelander realizes that Sage planned everything and begins to trust her again.
I threw you out like garbage. Why would you do this?
To see if I could. This was so much fun. Whew.
At a press conference, Calhoun declares martial law and appoints Homelander to lead a soup-controlled force. Hot damn. The boys attempt to flee New York, but Gen V Cameo gang captures several members. Cindy causes Huey and Starlight to crash, while Love, Sausage, and Vought troops detain MM. At the same time, Kate forces Frenchie to abandon Kimiko. Huey sadly gets captured, while Starlight escapes using her restored powers. Finally, we see Homelander looking at Soldier Boy's cage. So yeah, welcome back, Jensen Ackles.
I'm coming for you. Because today, a new age of superheroes begins.
Alright guys, I've seen enough head popping today. Now it's time for me to focus on my head. Meanwhile, you guys go check out some other amazing recaps on this channel. Yes, we do have a ton of those. Please remember to like, subscribe, comment, do all those other awesome things you people do, and I will see you next time.